Hello, and welcome to D20 Helpdesk, the show where we take your questions and try and answer them, get completely derailed in conversation, and talk about complete nonsense for 25 minutes.
That's D&D, right?
That is, that's D&D. Tonight, this evening, afternoon, I don't know where you are, you're joining myself, Oliver, Dungeon Master. We've got Max over the side, who plays Rakir in Black Winter Nights, and Gorstag, aka Will, and we've got your questions. Look how professional this is. We've got them on a piece of paper. Actually written down.
Actually scrunched up.
There's actually the wrong bit of paper, but I'm just kidding. It's the right. It's for comedic effect. Hey. Whoa, we've all got our coffees. I forgot to put chocolate sprinkles on mine. First world problems.
Recording cancelled.
Go home, everyone.
Oh, it cannot work like that.
I will be in my trailer. I expect Ferrero Rochers and some fucking Bogomons. I don't even know what they are.
Ooh, I'm hitting puberty at last.
Finally, Max, we're so proud of you. We'll throw you a puberty party.
Please don't.
Is that a thing? I feel like that should be a thing. I don't get one when I hit puberty. Mine, I went like that. I went from
one day soon over, yeah.
Yeah, eventually. Cool. So this is us now. We're doing this on a new set. I say set, it's really just a couch. It sounded like professional, though. Yeah, we're on the set. Because I moved. Not to get away from Dave, because I moved in with my girlfriend. Hey, and she's there. Hi, they can't see you, but we can. See, she's real, people. Doubters out there, she's real, right? Bastards. Tons of people were like surprised. Anyway, so we've got the main question.
Not just online, Oliver.
I was having lunch with my girlfriend and my auntie today. She said, girlfriend? Girlfriend? And her eyes, and then she was like, and she realised what she said, and she's like, I mean, girlfriend.
Thanks.
Guess who's not getting invited to Christmas dinner this year?
Or your puberty party, right?
My puberty party, exactly. Let's get to the actual questions.
Yeah.
So we've got the main question, which we've picked from our Discord server. So we do this every month. With different people. I'm always here because my life belongs to this channel. I signed a contract very early on that I didn't entirely read. And we take your questions from the Discord, which is the D20 Multiverse, if you want to jump on the Discord for next month. And the main question we've got, and then we've got some quick fires after that. The main question we've got is from Spargarkun. Spargarkun.
I like that better.
Spargarkun. The greatest name I think we've had on D20 Helpdesk. And his main question was, how do you feel about players injecting themselves into plot hooks? He gave an example, which was, just by coincidence, his last name happened to be the same as the name the DM in his game picked for a ship.
Wow. And
then he was kind of like, oh, because it's got the same name, I could just have that be my brother's ship, or this, and have it tied to the family. And he was just wondering, from a DM perspective, and a player perspective, and a DM player perspective, yeah, what's the best way to approach this? If you want to say something along the lines of, hey, DM, this king that's really important, would it be okay if I was his brother? Or something like that, getting a player into the plot hook. So that's what we'll be talking about this afternoon. I had to pause there because I could not remember what time of day it was. So, my personal opinion, I think you can absolutely do this, but do it with the approval of the DM. I think there needs to be a conversation pre-game.
absolutely.
Yes. Cool. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for your questions, Spagarkin. I think it's an interesting topic because this sounds like the player was already with this character, and this is something they came across a while later. So,
yeah, it was just complete coincidence, according to them.
So the backstory could have been, of that character could already have been quite heavily laid out. The foundation could already be there. So ideally, you'd want this kind of thing to be discussed before your character comes into play.
Yeah.
If you're retconning part of your backstory like 3 months in, it can be a bit odd, and the reasons for your character even doing things, I think, can change. And that can go on a weird narrative trip that, you know, Alice in Wonderland kind of shit starts happening where you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm here. Also, I'm a different race. Also, this is my ship. Did you know I own a ship? I own a ship.
Yeah. I think, actually, it's quite cool. It's quite a thing I do as a DM. To make players more invested, I put in a plot hook that relates to their character. I have Elle for you, the lovely girl in Duskin.
Nice.
I got artifacts for your character, who is very, very, you know, on the path of wanting to find some. So yeah, I think it's certainly something that makes a plot device or plot hook more interesting, a personal stake. I think we talked about this on the last D20 specifically, but yeah, I think it's a cool thing to do, just not at the table without talking to the DM.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is, like, with basically every aspect of
DE. Yeah.
D&D is you got to remember you're doing like something collaboratively with other people, so you can't just like decide that you're having your own story and then you're suddenly going to be the focus of attention or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because you want to, because that's what you think will be most fun to you. You know, you've got to recognise that there's at least one other person being affected by it, the DM, and potentially the rest of the table as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
and there's another thing of not doing it too often, and in fact, trying to make every plot point about your character is just not in fitting with the spirit of D&D, which is, as you say, collaborative. I also think, you know, from a DM perspective, if a player came to me and said, would it be alright if this had something to do with my character in terms of the story, as long as it didn't break the campaign story arc, I would 100% do that.
Yep.
Because I like being able to say yes to my players. I suppose it's my improv background. You know, I want to be able to have you guys, but then I've played in games where the DM very much believes that it's their story, and you're just witnesses. Which I don't think is in fitting with the true spirit of D&D, which is, as you say, collaborative.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So, coming back to this DM's perspective for this,
Yeah.
If you were already, you know, a couple of months into the game, this character was quite well established, they had rapport with the other characters and certain NPCs, and then someone said something like this, like, oh, because there's this name that I share with another ship or a group, how, as a DM, would you introduce that? Would you? What are some options here? Like, could it be a long-lost family connection that they didn't realise they had, and they could go on a quest to understand this better and find out where these people come from and how they're related? Or?
Well, an interesting thing that I like to use is the lineage bloodline.
Yep.
Did you know that you were a descendant of this? And that's easy to do because you can have it be a late lineage, like trace back ages, so it doesn't really affect the story too much. It was like Dane found out that he could have been a descendant of the one true king, the one king, who was a celestial kind of god, essentially, but with a mortal bloodline. I also really love the Lost Family thing.
Yep.
Your sister comes back, and a lot of time players will work that into their backstory.
Yep.
I have someone I haven't met in a long time. I often also really like it when you have them early on in the campaign, invested in an NPC. I had a rogue who had a rogue friend, traditional, and they kind of shared secrets and stole coins together. Then he disappeared for a while. So it only took maybe 5-6 sessions for that NPC to come out of the main focus of the group. And that's when I introduced him back and said, I'm in trouble, I need help. And they went, oh yeah, that's right. And because they feel that's part of their world, because it's part of their character, it made them really invested when he came back. The other thing that I quite like doing when you tie an NPC into a story is killing them. Having the NPC completely murdered or blown to smithereens.
Savage.
And yeah, well, sometimes. And that's another great thing, because now you can avenge them if you wish. You can pay them a homage in their hometown. But yeah, there's a lot you can do with it.
I think, the main thing that we've touched on from the player's perspective as well is that you have this open dialogue where you as the DM and the player have an understanding of what wants to be created here. For example, if someone said, I have this connection, can we run with this at the table? And then you put yourself in an NPC's shoes and you start having this dialogue with them, improvised about that person's family, that they are kind of working with you to make up on the spot. A lot of people aren't going to be comfortable with that. A lot of people will love that and immediately just make this character, make this history, and immediately make gags. And I've seen that work really well, but it has to be the right connection between the player and DM.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, sorry, you go ahead.
Strong DM player communication is key for if you're running a really important role-play heavy session. Because a lot of that comes from the DM's story in his world and the character and tying them together. And I've had moments where I've improvised NPCs. I'd forgotten that one of the players' brothers was Hand of the King.
Classic.
And then I was mentioning what was going on in that city, and he goes, we'll go talk to him. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh shit.
And then my first thought was, oh god, what does he sound like? And then I was like, well, they won't notice. Hello, welcome back. It's great to see you. And I've improvised stuff that has just not made sense. And then later gone back and gone, actually, I said this, that makes no sense. And I was like, I'll just change this. And a lot of my early DMing was improvising a whole bunch of backstory and plot hook devices and getting characters involved and totally screwing it up. And then having to go back and go, now how does that make sense? Like, and spending hours just being like, okay, what if he's actually a ghost from the future? And I'm doing my own improv mistakes. That's why I think it has to be a pre-game discussion for this kind of thing. But I highly encourage it, and you should have that conversation with your DM.
I think as a DM here for this question, I think there are a couple of fun ways you can get around this if someone does introduce it in the late game.
Yeah.
One really interesting point I read months and months ago about DMing was that any of your material is not wasted. If players completely ignore a certain area or an NPC, you can keep that and just change a couple of minor details and introduce it again later. And they'll be like, wow, this is cool. Did you just make this up on the spot? And you'll be like, I've had this for 7 years. No. But you can do that with characters too. Like, I have mystery characters and I know where their connections are and why they have these interactions with the players. But if someone wanted to say, what is my connection with this? I could bring one of these characters that they don't know too much about and then use them as a vessel to continue that narrative.
Nice. Another thing I loved doing with the one-shot characters that I brought to our games was have them be very important to the plot hook. Have them, instead of having the NPC, which is fun for you guys, have the NPC that's part of the plot story be a new player at the table. And when I did that, when I brought players into the game, I would always meet with them for coffee beforehand. And I would say, this is your secret intention, this is what you're totally going to screw the party over, this is how you do it. To the point where I'm now unable to bring a guest player on without you fuckers throwing them in the zone of truth. But yeah, so I love being able to do that. And like you say, using that to bring back an NPC, you know, when it's a guest shot, a guest character, and you see this on Critical Role, it's fun when you can just be like, oh, and by the way, and then they come down the stairs, and you're like, hi, I'm Black Hammer's back! And that's just a real cool fun thing that you can do at the table.
Oh, to continue the rant, I just remembered something else really fun that you could do. Similar thing if you've got a character that was introduced earlier on, or perhaps you just wanted to have some way of contacting the player about this new information, write them an actual letter from a character that they don't know, and then just be like, bam, here you go. You received this. Someone found you with this message. You'd be like, oh, shit.
Yeah, nice.
My uncle in Nigeria died and I've inherited it.
What's the D&D equivalent of credit card info? Like, I have to write a pigeon or something.
I think like more generally, like just any kind of physical props that you end up using in D&D are always going to have a good reaction, eh? Because that's just like a really good bit of flavour, I think.
I've not. Yeah, actually, no. I have a really cool one that I'm waiting to unleash for you guys. I don't know where I put it. Is the only problem. It's somewhere in this house. But yeah, another thing. Like I'm talking about, like giving them a letter. It just reminds me, and I think we had this as one of the other. Like quick questions. So we'll just touch on it now. I just splashed coffee everywhere. It's alright, landed on me. It's fine. And the how to bring a role player out who's not a role player. How to get someone involved. And a great way that I've discovered for doing this is to give them a letter or give them information privately before the game. That way, instead of having to improvise dialogue with an NPC, they can just relay the information that you've given them. And that helps them get into the role-playing scenario if they're not comfortable with it. So I had that technique for someone that we were playing with, and you know, he was a very shy person, but it really shone when he knew when he didn't have to make it up. And I would also give him crucial information, so he knows it's important. They get to a point in the story and they're like, well, what does this mean? And I kind of like wink at him. It really, after like 4 or 5 sessions, he was just improvising, he was doing all this and that, you know, he got the hang of it. So it's another great thing that you can do with a letter. But I'm a big fan of the letter in general.
Yeah, I think that might have been my question, actually, so it's interesting to hear. Do you have any suggestions for that as well?
For what, sir? No.
So bringing out, in a role-play heavy game, and everyone's agreed upon it, everyone's happy with it, bringing out someone who's not so experienced or perhaps doesn't quite, isn't really too onto it with the improvisation, how to bring that out and help them and assist them at the table?
I think it's just kind of like going along at whatever pace the person wants to, because obviously they want to be doing that if they're being a part of that game, right? So the main notes feel comfortable with. So I think it's possibly not just like shoving them in the deep end immediately and saying, you know, you now have to do this like very 45-minute conversation with the king or something, and it's going to decide the whole fate of the campaign. And it's all on you and only you.
And the party's like watching as one of the millions of commoners who are all out.
It's just like, I don't know, just by putting anyone who's not comfortable with doing that in that kind of position is just going to make them freeze up, and they're not going to do a good job, and they're going to feel bad about it, and they're not going to want to keep going. So I think it is just more like, let them contribute at their own pace. Don't like punish them for say being the quieter member of the party. And
do not punish them.
And then hopefully, like as they get more comfortable with the group and with the game itself, they'll just naturally kind of come out of it. And I agree, like giving that's a really good idea. What you said, that giving them information that they need to share with the rest of the party that you've prepared with them beforehand is really great. I think that's really cool. Not something that's, I don't think that's something I've seen before in our game. Have you done that in our game? I'm not sure. But...
Not for that reason. I do similar, your visions, for example. The other player who was not as strong on the role play, I'd give him visions. And that's essentially giving him a letter. But in the context of a god communicating or this or that. And then that's always quite fun. But one thing that you mentioned to me in one of our many coffee chats about D&D was the rumours thing. Each player has been given a couple of rumours. Now that, again, is potentially tying things into plot hooks.
Exactly.
To bring it back to the theme seamlessly. So you can use... Because your thing was the players don't know which of these rumours is true. But there must be some truth among it.
Yeah, so I have a collection, I have a book of rumours and people, and it's separated by region. And a lot of the rumours, there's enough information about them that I'll just tell them straight out. There is a sighting of this strange creature, give them a vague description. Others are mostly hearsay, and some of the characters have different versions of the same rumour, citing that some disease, plague, or some affliction on some important figure is from a different cause, a different place, and maybe sometimes it's antagonistic, and so you kind of sow the seeds for, I guess, suspicion and potential conflict with ones like that, but it also means that the players can bring this to discussion at the table when the other characters come across this information for the first time, and they can say, I've heard about this. I think this is where it comes from. And then they can ask someone who maybe has, some relationship with that rumour.
Well, see, I really think one of your strengths, Max, is from the detail you put into your campaigns. It's the things about, you know what the lords and ladies, you know the reasons why they're there, you know how the people feel, and that kind of stuff is great. What you reminded me of was something that was in my head and is now gone. It was the thing of, you know how not just in D&D is it your actions that shape the world, but your inactions. You guys recently went to save Philafandir, you got this close, all you had to do was take out one more mage. But before he rolled a nat 20 on his initiative, knocked you out. Philafandir is now being blown to smithereens. But another thing you can do, in terms of plot hooks, your character's decisions, your character's inactions, and your character's backstories can also make very important stuff. So elements of what they did or didn't do before you started playing, you can hook them in like that. Like if they're a rogue, obviously, they've picked a few pockets. You can just have someone from their past hunting them for trying to get back the coin, or they go into a room and someone remembers them for cheating at a card game, or something like that. That's a fun way to, that's another resource to tie them in, rather than what they've done, what they have done in the past.
That reminds me of two interesting points.
Thank God, because we've got another 3 minutes on this question.
Another 3 minutes. Tying back to kind of getting the role play out as well, having that, I guess if you give someone that is not too confident but wants to be able to express themselves more in the RP scenario, if you give them that backstory of information, in particular something that can be immediately useful, information about a certain enemy's weakness, if you give them a political tie so that they can call in a favour from someone at some time if they need it, that's something cool you can do. And also, one thing I saw at my table that just happened serendipitously was one of my players who is very confident with the RP just had this weird argument with a character who insulted him during a bar, essentially like a drinking game that a large region congregates on. And he had this small fight with this dwarf who spat at his feet when he tried to shake hands. And he read to me from his character sheet very loudly, he was like, my personality trait is that once someone loses my favour, it is not easily gained again. And so he found this dwarf later on when they saved the town and had this big discussion. And it was like, you're going to come help us now.
It just reminds me of the drinking. Do you remember when we were playing Goon Roulette at your place?
Yes.
And I swung the thing and knocked me unconscious.
You're not going unconscious, you're not going
over the ground. I don't remember that. I remember people telling me about it. Quiet.
It was good. It was a good party.
I forgot that you're there behind the camera.
But yeah, if you have someone who's confident with RP, that can give an example like that, or just show a little interaction that can happen quite easily. Something like that can
also
bring people up.
If you give them a bit of information and basically say to them, you'll know when this is the right moment. It's also cool for other players at the table when that moment happens, and they go, wait, no, and they pull out the letter, and everyone goes, oh, what's that? Kind of thing. That makes for interesting D&D.
Do we have another question there as well? It looks like we have a couple.
So we'll go. Well, that's the main question. So we do. That's from Spagaken. Such a great name, Spagaken. Yeah, that is the main question. So we kind of answered it.
Yeah, sort of.
In a way, we did our best.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. 320. That took way longer than it should have. And it's 220 as well as the other thing. Cool, so we'll just jump on to the quickfire questions. First one is from Yenrock, very D&D name. Virtual tabletops, have you used them, and pros and cons versus playing in person? Personally, I've never used one. I've watched games that have been online. And it's wicked in some ways because you're playing from your bedroom at your computer. You know, it's a very safe, comfortable place. You don't have to wear pants. That's number one draw for me. You can play with people all around the world. Awesome. You know, that's cool. That's cool. But, yeah, it's harder to get the player-player conversations going because they're not like this, where I'm sitting close to you, I can smell you, I can see your guns. Like, you know, that makes it easier for the conversation.
I've had a little bit of experience, not with any of the major online tabletop services, but... on Steam, there's a game called Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, yeah.
And I've played in a couple of D&D games that just use that. And you can, you know, draw up maps, or if you have the time and preparation as a DM, which I think a lot of these systems rely on, you can have maps and things drawn out that you can't really quite so easily do compared to in person, where you can just stick a whiteboard down and be like, bam, this is a grid. We'll discuss things. You have to have preparation, the interaction with people. You can't use body language.
Right.
Which, it does suffer for that in some degree. And also you get weird internet problems where people will start talking at the same time and then...
Or someone, it's combat and someone drops and you have to wait 20 minutes for them to reconnect.
That being said, though, if you don't actually know anyone in your city, wherever you live, who wants to play D&D, that's a really good way of playing it. Like, I mean, for all the reasons you've said, I don't think it's as good as playing with other people in the flesh, but it's like... still better than not playing at all if you really want to play. And it'll probably give you a good idea as well if you haven't played D&D or anything before, if you would actually like it, because it's again, it's not as good, but it'll give you an idea if you're actually interested in.
I do also quite like the map thing. You can create some real cool online maps that are really detailed. The fog of war is much easier. You don't have to be removing bits of paper kind of thing. You can it just does it online. In terms of like the digital crossing over with D&D, which essentially is one of the oldest mediums we have, which is just storytelling, shared storytelling. I've seen some cool stuff. I've seen a guy that had a projector on his roof that projected the map onto the table.
Wow.
That's amazing. And I've had endless conversations with my friend Ben about virtual reality in Dungeons and Dragons and where that's going to go.
Oh boy.
Because if you can hook up your visual cortex to a computer and imagine something and have it on screen, that's gonna revolutionise D&D.
I'm done with reality. Sign me up.
Kai would like to know favourite class.
Oh, wizard every time.
Rogue.
Warlock.
Nice, very nice. And Jason wanted to know pros and cons of dungeon mastering for a partner.
Wow.
It's hard not to be biased, is the first answer to that. You have your partner on the show. I rolled and won on my saving throw. It's alright, the DC was a 0. You're fine.
It's like, you failed that ability check odd today, or, kind of thing, like, or are you sleeping on the couch tonight? Or, like that kind of shit. I don't know. I mean, I've never DM'd for a partner, so...
No, neither have I, but...
Neither have I was just imagining.
I mean, I guess you have to really be clear about setting things apart between the game and reality. Like, if you do get upset a certain NPC or combat doesn't go your way, and then you hold that against your partner, that's just unhelpful. I mean, we're not, relationship counselors or anything.
But next week on D20 Helpdesk, we'll be taking your relationship questions.
I think just to expand a little bit as well, I think that's true for, even if you're not in a romantic relationship with a people you're playing D&D with, or, just don't be a dick, You're playing a game at the end of the day. There's no point in getting actually upset with people because, our roll didn't go your way or you didn't get the magic item you wanted or whatever, it is literally a game. Just chill the fuck out. At the end of the day.
100% with you. Yeah. Actually, at our store we have, rule 1 is just Wheaton's Law. Don't be a dick. That's absolutely true. Yeah. I think it also comes down to communication. It's all about being able to talk through problems and stuff.
And I think, and D&D, I mean, for me anyway, it's not a game that you, win, if you know what I mean. It's not about winning, it's about being part of the story that's, that has an arc and all that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily about just, doing the most damage or killing the big boss and stealing the loot or something like that. It's about, the kind of story. So if you're just focusing on the winning part of it, then you're losing a lot, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Sometimes players get involved for my little nephews have started playing a game in their school society, and there's been a lot of PvP between two players. Players that keep fighting each other in game, and it's like, well, that's not really what the spirit. But these guys are young; they're just like 12, 13, so they're just learning about it.
I mean, it's D&D is a very subjective thing, right? I mean, everyone comes into it for different reasons.
Yeah.
I initially found myself drawn to it because I really like the number crunching and tactics and combat. With your game, I found I really enjoy the RP stuff more than I thought I would as well.
Cool.
So, it's people come into it for different reasons. You have to be careful and be friendly with people. And also, just don't be a dick, don't get upset. It's a game.
Yeah.
People do make little mistakes, the DM and the player both. If something small happens, just...
Huge mistakes in my
talk
case,
about
but
But yeah, exactly. Just talk about it is the main thing. Like if you actually have a problem with something or you think something is actually unfair, talk about it and then go from there, kind of thing.
I always make sure that my players know if I do something or you want to talk about something, you have to buy me a coffee. But other than that, I'm just kidding. So I think like the takeaway from this episode of D20 Helpdesk is don't be a dick and communication is key. We started with plot hooks, but that's what we ended on. Don't be a dick and communication is key. There'll be another one of these next month. So if you jump in our Discord server, the D20 Multiverse, you can pose questions to us. We will pick them, and then we'll do another one of these next month. So from myself, Oliver, Dungeon Master, Max, Will, we bid you a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I have to say that because I'm a YouTuber. Plug, in my contract. There may be links to buy our t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Check out the rest of our content. Give us an email, tweet at us, post on our Instagram that doesn't exist, and
do it anyway.
Yeah, and make me your best friend on LinkedIn. Right. Does anyone use that?
Once.
I have a profile, so I just get annoying emails constantly.
And add me on MSN Messenger and ICQ. That's us. Good evening. Goodbye. That worked.
Nice. Good timing.